Thank you for giving me a chance to make a few comments. May I start with...
Absolutely.
Yeah, he mentioned empires. Well, that the empires are not nation states, China, India. But the point is that they have never been nation states. So it was not necessary to liquidate the nation states there. And what we, at least some of us, don't want to do is to liquidate the nation states in Europe, liquidate Italy. I'm not sure about Belgium, it's not a state anymore. But this is not such a problem in China or India. Europe is different, has been different, and the nation states are a substantial part of the European identity. So don't compare it with India or Brazil or China. It has absolutely no meaning. Second, I am very suspicious to the phrases like, if we don't go together, we will not dominate the world. I don't think it's necessary to dominate the world. It's a very old imperialistic thinking to dominate the world. I don't think that the normal people want to dominate the world. I'm afraid that some politicians in Europe want to dominate the world. But the meaning of to dominate the world is repeated very often, is for me totally unnecessary and not important. To go forward or to go back? I think we have to clarify where we are. When we are, and I am convinced that we are in a blind alley. In a blind alley, there is no way forward. In a blind alley, we have to go a few steps back and to make a new decision at a crucial decision-making point. So we made a tragic mistake, as you admit, with the monetary union, which was unprepared and too early. So let's make some changes, but it's in a blind alley. There is no way out. Simply, you have to go back, and I'm convinced that we have to go back in many respects. And this may be the topic of the next year's European elections. I wish there are serious political parties, not populist political parties in Europe, which will participate in the next year's elections with a program to change Europe to the less Europe, not to the more Europe. Dream of peace is such a cheap and empty slogan. I am not sure that the peace in Europe was done by the EU or EEC 60 years ago. It was much more done by NATO than by the EU, but nevertheless the EU is permanently speaking about the role it played in this respect. And I have a problem with accepting the term European sovereignty. Europe trying to create European sovereignty means that you must have a strong feeling of real and authentic European identity, which I do not have, I must admit. For me, the European identity is additional identity, much smaller in importance than the fundamental identity of Italy or the Czech Republic. So it's a small feeling of identity, and on such a small feeling of identity, we can't build a real entity called Europe. And I am confused very often when I hear that we are the citizens of Europe. I'm sorry, Mr. Minister, we are not citizens of Europe. Europe is a continent which has no citizens. We are potentially, some of us may feel being the citizens of a man-made organization called European Union. But European Union and Europe, those are totally different entities. As I said at the beginning, we are part of Europe. but we are members of the European Union. I remember I was very angry 9 years ago when we entered the European Union and everyone was telling me, welcome in Europe. I had to refuse that statement because we have always been part of Europe in Prague as here in Rome or potentially in Brussels. So let's differentiate in our talks very clearly the citizenship. I am an inhabitant of Europe, but I don't feel being a citizen of Europe, which creates all the answers to the problems we raise here.